Thank you. Thank you for the invitation to welcome participants in this exciting symposium. And, of course, a very warm welcome to the Castle of Christiansborg. For those of you who haven't been here before, I can tell you this room was the meeting room for the two chambers of Parliament when we still had a bicameral constitution. They met very seldom, but on very important occasions they did. For instance, today when Denmark was occupied by Germany in April 1940, the two chambers met here. Now it's an ordinary conference room we use very often. In the background you have a fresco of the men that voted for the constitution that gave voting rights to women and to poor people. In 1915, we are going in this country to have a lot of celebrations next year because of the first real democratic constitution we got in 1915, where all walls of society got voting rights. I think you have a very interesting day ahead of you. I regret I haven't, because of other activities, the time to stay here, but I look forward to be informed about your deliberations afterwards. In my view, cultural diplomacy on the part of the Nordic countries involves creating a dialogue between different cultures founded on mutual respect. We live in a world where we are all deeply interdependent, a world in which there is an urgent need to prevent or terminate conflicts. The number of conflicts has actually reached frightening heights this summer. To strengthen human rights and social stability across borders, inside countries and continents, and between people of different faiths and political convictions. The Nordic countries have a very special cultural basis for organizing such a dialogue. In the perspective of world history, I think the Nordic communities themselves are preeminent where social cohesion and the ability to create broad popular solutions to political challenges are concerned. The Nordic welfare models have created some of the richest society in this world, societies characterized by a minimum of inequality, of greater social security and harmony, and these things are, I'm sure, connected, less corruption and abuse of power than, broadly speaking, everywhere else in this world. The Nordic model is deeply rooted in the past 100 years and cannot, as a matter of course, be transplanted to other countries directly. But I think many ideas and many concrete welfare projects from the Nordic area can be exported around the world. We have built our social models with the help of agreements between political parties and cooperation between powerful national movements such as the trade unions and the agricultural and consumer organizations. We have a well-regulated, highly organized labor market with a long-standing positive experience for resolving occasional conflicts and cooperating on a day-to-day basis. The democratic traditions developed during our common Nordic history and our closely related languages are among the reasons why Nordic cooperation developed earlier and in very important areas are more firmly anchored in popular feeling than cooperation inside the European Union. It's not necessary for us to apply for residency or work permits if we want to settle in one of the other Nordic countries. We have a social union, which means that we have basically the same social rights, and a Nordic language convention that enables us to use our mother tongue with regard to Nordic authorities in whichever of the Nordic countries we live. For decades, there has been Nordic support for the strengthening of international law and of the United Nations across party politics. As small states, we have a natural interest in the development of a global, well-functioning community founded on the rule of law. Therefore, the Nordic countries have been strongly committed from an early stage to all aspects of the United Nations work, including peacekeeping operations. And we have set high standards for national development aid to the third world countries. After the end of the Cold War, we have committed ourselves to helping our new neighbors to develop democracy, especially the three Baltic states. The Nordic countries have enormous areas at their disposal in the Arctic and North Atlantic that are of growing importance for transport, the environment, and supply of raw materials. With regard to the Arctic in particular, the Nordic countries are faced with major challenges in relation to emergency preparedness, environmental monitoring, and marine rescue operations, etc. We have adopted common visions for this also and for important areas of Nordic defense cooperation. And we have decided to establish a Nordic monitoring of Icelandic airspace after a series of Russian violations. And during the Ukraine crisis right now, Denmark, among others, participate in air policing over the Baltic. In many ways, the financial crisis, geopolitical developments and climate change in the Arctic have necessitated more Nordic cooperation in relation to our surroundings. I'm sure the Minister for Culture will say a lot about the unifying force of culture. There is an incredible big market for Nordic television co-productions, Nordic novels, Nordic music, Nordic food, Nordic fashion, Nordic Arctic tourism, among other things. And Nordic novels are received with the greatest interest, especially on the German market. More than 200 translated Icelandic works were present at the Frankfurt Book Fair a couple of years ago. By comparison, there were only 100 translated Chinese works in the same fair. So our common potential was clearly in evidence also during the Nordic Cool Cultural Festival in Washington last year, which was not simply a state-financed campaign, it was chiefly American funding that made it possible to present 700 Nordic artists involved, and it is a sure sign of quality that people are willing to pay for this. So, I think there are a lot of important expressions of cultural diplomacy, Nordic cultural diplomacy in particular, that manifests itself in a gratifying manner. So with these words, I wish you a very interesting conference here in Christiansborg today. Thank you.